Good evening, everybody. You're very welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I am Anthony Murphy, your host of Live Irish Myths. This evening is episode number 280, and we are returning to that wonderful book, The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. Hope you are as excited as I am. It is a bank holiday Monday here in Ireland, where the banks are shut and a lot of businesses are shut, and we get an extra day off, basically, and people tend to relax and go away and do things. You may have noticed, if you're in this part of the world or at similarly northerly latitudes, that the sun sets very late in the evening, and indeed we have sort of lasting twilight through the night for the next 6 weeks. That's going to be the situation. As the sun reaches in 18 days' time its summer solstice maximum declination north of the celestial equator, its furthest north rising and setting points on the horizon. Exciting, eh? Yes, except for some reason, I don't like when we get to that point, because it's downhill after that. The days are getting shorter and shorter from that point forward. So there you go. Anyway, I will say hello to a few of you good folk. Apologies about last week. We did not have a live stream last week, and that's because my daughter was in hospital. So, family in those situations takes priority, as you understand. I didn't say much about it, and I won't say much about it, except for she's out now, but she will need to go back in for some surgery. But thank you for all the good wishes when I posted that an urgent family situation necessitated the cancellation of the episode. A lot of people wishing us well, which is great. Ali is the first tonight to say hello. She's watching on YouTube from Tucson in Arizona. Mythical Monday. Let's go. Yep. Let us indeed delve into the mythological past. Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter is in Ireland. She's in the Ring Farm in Burr in County Offaly. Brilliant stuff. Elaine, you're certainly getting around. I've been looking at your pictures. Fabulous stuff. But sure, you always make the most of it, don't you? You know. Lily Shamble says, evening all, and a very good evening to you. Trononawa. Lily. Archeo Myth says hello. Hello there, Archeo Myth. Interesting combination, archaeology and myth. Something after my own heart, exactly. Anne McCallum says hello, Anton and all the mighty duo. Hope everything's in good form. Lovely sunny day, hardly any wind at 24 Celsius. Had some serious thunderstorms recently, but none today, as always. Looking forward to today's episode. Well, stay warm and safe and dry, Anne, and keep the thunderstorms away. 24C sounds quite nice. I think it probably didn't reach probably about 18 here today. It's cloudy here today, largely. The sun did pop through a few times, but by and large, overcast. It's 16 right now at Dublin Airport. Rex Fortenberry is in the house. Greetings, fellow humans. Really looking forward to mything it good today. Let's rock. I wish. What do I mean, I wish? I was going to say I wish everybody was as excited about Live Irish Myths, but you generally are, you know. Ali wants to know if anyone will take bets on how many dad jokes there will be tonight. Yeah. None? No good ones. Fantastic book. What a resource, says Wendy Connolly. Yes, I agree. It's been fascinating. Adina Spark says, happy Mythical Ireland Monday, Anthony, and to a hot day in New Mexico. Almost 100F here, which is 37.7. Let's call that 38. Wow, that's hot. Joe Butler says, hello from beautiful Colorado, where, if I'm not mistaken, you've had some interesting weather events recently. I saw very large hailstones, and I think see some damage to your garden or to your plants. Yeah, 'tis a bit extreme up in the mountains. Thank you, Anne McCallum, for your best wishes. You're very good. And to Argue Myth, thank you also. Barbara Murphy is saying hello, everyone, from a nice, warm Tucson, Arizona, expecting 107 by the end of the week. Normal June. Well, 107 is 40, almost 42. Oh, that is hot. Tall Cedar is saying hello from rainy Bellingham. Tall Cedar from, I presume, is that Bellingham, Washington State. A very good afternoon to you, where it's just past midday there. It's just past 8 p.m. here in the evening here even. And I am always, of course, delighted to welcome people from the Pacific Northwest, where Mythical Ireland has quite a substantial following, actually, all the way up and down the West Coast. Washington, Oregon, California. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thank you. Please do remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you get notified of future live streams and video uploads. Brendan Byrne says, good evening, Anthony and fellow followers of Mythical Ireland. A fine crop of human beings. Brilliant stuff, Brendan. Hope all is well down in Glandalocha. Tom King is in the house. Hello there, Anthony, and the mighty Tua. Mighty Tua, yes. Beautiful sunset at the fords of the Smooth Road. It's been a busy day. A dram in hand, and it's story time. Enjoy all. Brilliant stuff, Tom. Keep forging, keep the fire lit, keep the flame glowing, as they say. Lily says, enjoy the warmth. We are due to go down to about 6 Celsius over the next few nights. That's kind of almost frosty weather. Kati Waka says, Morena Te Puke, is that from New Zealand? Wow. A very good, I presume it's morning time there. Catty, you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. What a delight. We're always thrilled to welcome viewers from the other side of the world. Lily says, should I add, I'm in the middle of England. Rex is suggesting that he joins Tom King for a dram. Anna L says, good evening, Anthony and the Tua. Greetings from lovely Polonisia Droj in Poland. Unfortunately, brought Irish weather with me. Yeah. It's been a reasonably nice weekend here. We can't complain too loudly. I wonder if any of the Irish people were at Bloom in the Phoenix Park. I didn't go myself. Not my kind of thing, gardening. And don't have the time for it. Tuesday Thompson is wishing us all a happy Mythology Monday. Thank you very much. Many happy returns. Yes, indeed. Washington State. Brilliant stuff. And so Bellingham is pretty much almost, could I be controversial and describe it almost as a suburb of Vancouver? No, you can't, Anthony. Do not even suggest that Bellingham is in any way connected with Vancouver, except for by that, is that the I-5 or what is it called, that freeway that seems to connect you both. Never mind. But brilliant. Yeah, you're as far north in Washington State, almost as far north as you can get, unless you're in Birch Bay. I'm looking, yes, on Google Maps. Or Blaine, which looks like it is perhaps a suburb. Oh, wow. The border between Canada and the United States passes through the city of Blaine. How does that work? Like if you're going to the store or to the post office, you know, or your local golf club, you might have to enter a different jurisdiction. That looks interesting. Sending love to all your family, Anthony. Thank you very much, Lily. Appreciate the nice gesture. Or Burgess is saying hello from New York. Yes, it is. I know it's in there. It's in the filing system. It just has to be retrieved, you know. Yeah. No, not on live TV, Anthony. Don't. Little too hot to work in the garden this afternoon, so here I am. Well, brilliant. Lucky for us that the weather is too hot in New York. Joe Butler is saying, yeah, severe thunderstorm last Thursday night with hail, about 2-inch diameter hail. Wow. Almost every year, Almost every car in my neighbourhood has significant hail damage. My car was in the garage. Phew. I bet you're glad for the garage, Joe, and the fact that you parked it in there. Wow. We only see, I don't know what you call them, hailstones that are kind of like gropules, you know, a couple of millimeters thick, 2 or 3 maybe. Wow. Sparks and a dram. Well, maybe not at the same time. Yeah, Tom, be careful of your fire safety. Don't want to set the whiskey on fire. Linda Bird is on the way to Westport. We stopped at Carramore and Carroll Keel. Thanks for the suggestions. Brilliant stuff. Lovely to see you on the live stream, Linda, having met yourself and himself, Eric, the other day. And what a lovely day we had for a tour of the ancient sites of the Boyne Valley. Lovely to see you popping in here. And Carramore and Carroll Keel, incredible places, and an important part of the story that we had explored at Fornox and Tara. Deborah Gilbert is saying hello from sunny Connecticut. Gremlins of Facebook for me, but gotcha on YouTube. Yay. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? If there's going to be gremlins, they're usually on Facebook. So good job we stream on both. John Main says, greetings from San Francisco summer, cold, foggy and damp. Yes, I had visitors the other day from Monterey, and they were telling me that even in the height of summer, it never gets much warmer than 70 Celsius there, which I was surprised about. And then they said, yeah, well, Monterey is right on the coast, but if you go inland, it's a scorcher. Like if you go directly inland to, for instance, what was the place called? Fresno. Different story altogether. Well, John, you're going to have to move inland for the hot weather, but maybe you don't want it. You know, you're an Irishman with pale skin like myself. You know, at the end of the day, John Inman is saying hello from, speaking of California, Eureka, California. A soft day, rain done for now. We will be free from fire for a while. Well, that's something to be happy about, isn't it? Josie Weatherford is here. Hello, Anthony and Tua. I got sick yesterday, but hopefully we'll be over it soon. By Thursday, I hope. Josie, all the very best to you. Get well soon. Look after yourself. And maybe get out to Tom King's and grab a dram. Are we allowed to ask questions anytime? Pretty much so. When I'm in the depths of reading or sometimes elaborating, I may not see comments or questions, but I do generally try to interact as much as possible during the live streams. Just one thing to say, because I'm not sure if I've seen you before, and that is, of course, so long as the questions are relevant to the discussion. Like, if you ask me what's my favorite kind of ladybird, I'd have to say a red one with black spots, but it wouldn't be necessarily relevant. Heather Marie Leaning is in the house. Evening, Anthony, Tom King, and Tua. I hope you're all well. Looking forward to tonight's reading. Brilliant stuff. Heather Marie, always a pleasure to welcome you to the library. And indeed, Sandra Boothroyd, who's saying good evening to all. Evening to you, Sandra. Always jolly and company as well. I think John's talking about himself. He couldn't possibly be talking about me. I'm not always jolly. Just 99% of the time. No, I am only joking. Somebody is saying hello from Peru. Is it NAJLG? Now, I struggle with some pronunciations, and I'm going to struggle with that one. Najlga. Hello there to Peru. I'm not sure if this is perhaps the first time in 280 episodes when we've had somebody watching from Peru. What a wonderful part of the world. That's where Machu Picchu is, isn't it? Brilliant. I wonder if you're up in the mountains or where you are. Brilliant stuff. Richard Burgess, thank you. Don't feel bad. I forget myself sometimes. Hope all is good with your daughter. Thank you, Richard, for the good wishes. Shay Payne is giving us a happy face or a smiley face. Sally Siggins is saying, hello from a misty Sligo. Your sound is a bit radio fuzzy, but maybe that's the mist effect. Is that? Let me just have a look at my settings. Perhaps I am a little bit overdriven on the volume, so I will lower that down because I know that when that's too high, one of the effects is that there's a bit of distortion on the audio. Thank you, Sally. Hello to you. I haven't been chatting to you in ages. Hope things are busy out at Carramore and that there's plenty of sunshine. David McDermott is saying, thrilled to catch you live. Best from Kilkenny. Brilliant stuff. Up the cats. David, how are you? Good evening from the wee county. Yes, I'm living in Peru, but I'm originally from Venezuela, says, is it Jay Nachlu? Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Let's just call you Niall. No, because that would assume things. Never mind. Sharon O'Farrell is in the house. Hello, lovely, magical duo. Evening, Anthony. And Ongawa himself. Hello, Sharon. What a pleasure. At this moment in time, it is 2016. It's 2024. I mean 8:16 p.m. of course. Tonight I propose I just leafed through earlier to pick out a few sections that we could read from that I thought would have some interest to those of us who are studying or have an enthusiasm for Irish myths and legends. I wonder, have I any announcements? No. So with everything that's been going on, there were no further public tours planned, but please do keep a very close eye on the tours page of the website because of course this is the time of the year when there will be regular tours. I am also on the verge of, in the coming few weeks, announcing a very special Mythical Ireland tour to take place in July at a venue. So I can't say, I'm not going to give the details, but what I can say is this, just to kind of build a little suspense and interest and intrigue. What I can say is that it is at a venue where Mythical Ireland has not done a tour in the past. And it is a joint tour with someone else who's interested in things that Mythical Ireland is interested in, such as mythology and archaeology and other things. Astronomical alignments and that. It'll be an exciting one. It'll be a one-off, but watch this space, as they say. Lexi Erickson has joined us. Driving in northern New Mexico, and it's hot. Won't be commenting, but listening. Wow. You get around, Lexi, don't you? New Mexico is, I understand, quite southern. I wonder, are you going to Albuquerque? Lexi, great to see you, and keep the eye on the road. Don't laugh too much at the dad jokes when they come. JP is saying hello from Berlin. Sounds good here. Brilliant. Yeah, I hope that audio thing has been rectified. Niall says, yes, it's an amazing place, which is referring to Machu Picchu, a place I've only ever seen in photographs and videos. Looks stunning. It looks amazing, you know. Shall we get on with it? Yes, indeed, say they, nodding together. Oh, yes, the other thing is the Fornox book is 97% complete. I'm still waiting on a small bit of detail from a couple of people. And then I will be getting into proofreading and editing and making sure everything is in order. And yeah, it's almost there. And I'm really excited about it. As are, of course, all the people who pre-ordered it. All pre-orders will be fulfilled and dispatched as soon as copies arrive from the printer. The book is the third in the Mythical Ireland Monograph series. It's called Fornox, Archaeology, Astronomy and Mythology. I'm going to check the link where you can pre-order your copy. So I'm going to paste it in there. It will run to about 180, 190 pages, so it'll be much bigger than either of the previous two monographs. The first monograph was the Finn and the Salmon of Knowledge book, which ran to 71 pages. Then the Bowen monograph, which runs to 104 pages. So it'll be more than both of those combined. So it's going to be a bigger, small book, as it were. But the first one ever to be published about Fornox. There is no book about Fornox. There is the original excavation paper published in 1957. And I'm really excited because I've got colour photographs of the finds from the National Museum. Barb Jordan is in the house. Hello, Barb. You are very welcome to the live stream. As always, great pleasure to see you here. Okay. Right, let's get on with it. So I'm starting with Cailleach. Some of these are quite short, so we may actually end up reading one or two more, but we'll see how we get on. Old Celtic name for Kali the Crone, Kali, the great goddess in her destroyer aspect. Like Kali, the Cailleach, Caillech, was a black mother who found many races of people who founded many races of people and outlived many husbands. She was also a creatress. She made the world, building mountain ranges of stones that dropped from her apron. And that, of course, is the story of Loch Crew, the cairns there, where she tipped out stones from her apron, and is probably the same story at Barclodiad y Gowres in Wales, in that island, Anglesey, which I believe is called, or means when it's translated, giantess apronful. Just for a moment there were two of us, two Anthonys. What's worse than Anthony Murphy telling bad dad jokes? Very easy. Two Anthony Murphys telling bad dad jokes. Scotland was once called Caledonia, the land given by Cali, or Caille, C-A-L-E, or the Cailleach. Scotland came from Scotia, the same goddess, known to Romans as a dark Aphrodite, to Celts as Scatha, or Scyth, S-C-Y-T-H, and to the Scandinavians as Skadi, S-K-A-D-I. And hello to Ulla Conrad, who joined us at that particular moment. I'm late because of tea with a druid. Brilliant reasons to be late for Eye of Irish Myths. That's one of the best I've ever heard. I'm having tea with a druid. It's almost like Bilbo Baggins having tea and cheese with Gandalf. Brilliant stuff. Lexi asked me to tell everyone, says Barbara. She is driving to Santa Fe, where she will be teaching for 4 days. She is an internationally known jewellery instructor. Yes, quite talented too. Yeah. Me too, lol, says Simon. Cy B in Limerick, who, me too, what? You're late because you were drinking tea with a druid? Yes, indeed. Likely story. Like the Hindus destroying Kalika, the Cailleach was known. Sorry. Like the Hindus destroying Kalika, the Cailleach was known as a spirit of disease. One manifestation of her was a famous idol of carved and painted wood, kept by an old family in County Cork, and described as the goddess of smallpox. As diseased persons in India sacrificed to the appropriate incarnation of the Kalika, so in Ireland, those afflicted by smallpox sacrificed sheep to this image. And that's apparently from Squire. From Forward. I'm going to check that. I didn't realize smallpox had been a sort of a thing in Ireland in the past. Squire. I'm presuming that's Squire, as in Charles Squire. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll find out momentarily. Wow. Yeah, such sacrifices of cattle. This is from Charles Squire. Appear mainly to have been offered to stay plague among cattle. Man for man and beast for beast was perhaps the old rule. But among all nations, human sacrifices have been gradually commuted for those of animals. The family of the O'Hurlebies in Ballyvorney, County Cork, used in olden days to keep an idol, an image of wood about 2 feet high, carved and painted like a woman. She was the goddess of smallpox, and to her a sheep was immolated on behalf of anyone seized with that disease. And that is further referenced in the quote about the image of wood about 2 feet high, carved and painted like a woman, is from Gomme, Gomme, Ethnology in Folklore, page 140. Fascinating stuff. Yes, says Simon. Me too, read tea with a druid. Everybody's drinking tea with druids. Just remember to have your tea earlier in the evening so that you have plenty of time to get on to Live Irish Myths. Where was I? It can hardly be doubted that Cailleach and Cailleach were the same word. Well, I suppose you'd have to ask a linguist or a philologist. According to various interpretations, Cailleach meant either an old woman or a hag or a nun or a veiled one. This last apparently referred to the goddess's most mysterious manifestation as the future, fate, and death, ever veiled from the sight of men, since no man could know the manner of his own death. Yeah, that's interesting. I often wondered about that. Why was she veiled? Why was she known as the veiled one? What was the significance of that? In medieval legend, the Cailleach became the Black Queen who ruled a western paradise in the Indies, where men were used in Amazonian fashion for breeding purposes only, then slain. Ladies, don't be getting any ideas. Spaniards called her Califia, 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 whose territory was rich in gold, silver, and gems. Spanish explorers later gave her name to the newly discovered paradise on the Pacific shore of North America, which is how the state of California came to be named after Cali. Well, there you go. There you go, John Mayne and is it Richard in Eureka? Who was in Eureka? I cannot remember which of you is in Eureka, and John Inman. I apologise. In the present century, Irish and Scottish descendants of the Celtic creatress still use the word Cailleach as a synonym for an old woman. And that is it. Alan Hoskin says, belated greetings, everyone. Don't tell me you were having tea with a druid. Just home. Hope all are well. I'll catch up on tea with a druid later. You've already seen the comments. Yes, you beat me to it. So, on a related matter, I'm going to read about hag. Couple of jokes. Did I read that one last time? No. It feels like it's familiar, but it's probably because No. Right. Paddy goes for a job at a chemical factory. The factory manager asks, have you worked with chemicals before? Yeah, Paddy replies. Can you tell me what nitrate is? Paddy says, I'm hoping it's going to be time and a half. My wife sent me a sweet text message that read as follows. If you're sleeping, send me your dreams. If you're laughing, send me your smile. If you're crying, send me your tears. I love you. I replied, I'm on the toilet. Please advise. Brilliant. Rex Fortenberry says, missed the druid having tea with Anthony. Brilliant. Mavanray Millward is saying, good evening all. I arrived just at the right moment for the dad jokes. What's PCG channel, Shay? I do not know what you're referring to. You might fill me in because I'm old and a bit slow. I fell asleep in the chair yesterday. When I woke up, someone had put a tea bag in my mouth, and I'm not happy about it. I hate being taken for a mug. I'm really tired of people complaining about the price of everything. €2 for a coffee, €3 for a coat check, €4 for an hour of parking. I'm just going to stop inviting them to my house. That's all you're getting for now. I suspect one of those was funnier than others. Oh, Joe Butler, I have to leave now for an appointment. Yeah. We believe you. You're leaving because the jokes are terrible. All the best, Joe, and we'll catch up with you on the replay. Thanks for joining in and for all the help, as usual. I'm glad you didn't go off the handle, says Caitlin Moon. Yes. I went off the boil. Badum, says Rex. I'm not laughing because Facebook froze, says Movanwe. You'll have to watch back on YouTube, I suggest. Yes. A hag, originally holy woman, in quotes. The hag was a cognate of Egyptian Hek, H-E-Q, a pre-dynastic matriarchal ruler who knew the words of power, or Hekau, H-E-K-A-U. In Greek, she became Hecate, the crone or hag, as queen of the dead, incarnate on earth in a series of wise women or high priestesses. In Northern Europe, the hag was the death goddess corresponding to Hecate, like the hag of the iron wood, whose daughter or virgin form was Hel, H-E-L. Old Norse Hagi, or is it Hagi, H-A-G-I, meant a sacred grove, the iron wood, a place of sacrifice. Haggin meant to chop in pieces, which is what happened to sacrificial victims dismembered for a feast. Hags may have been priestesses of sacrifice, like the Scythian matriarchs who butchered for their sacred cauldrons and read omens in entrails. Northmen colonized Scotland, where a haggis or hag's dish was made of internal organs. Haggis is it sheep or cow intestine? Somebody on here will know. Thank you very much, Richard Burgess. Thank you kindly, who has just become the latest Mythical Ireland patron over on patreon.com, which is scrolling down along the bottom of the screen. Thank you very much for your support. And an email from Sally Siggins. Yes, where was I? Philip Carr-Gum channel series, says Shay Payne. And what will we see on Philip Carr-Gum channel series? What I'm not familiar with them, so perhaps you might tell us. Is it related to what we're talking about? I hope so. Lily Shamble says sheep. Yes, indeed, as does Tom King. Sheep, I thought, but I just wasn't sure. Until the 19th century, people kept the New Year festival of Hagmena, Hag's Moon, going in disguise from house to house, begging cakes. A chronicler said, quote, sorry, my nose is stuffed, on the last night of the old year, particularly called Hagmanai, the visitors and company made a point of not separating till after the clock struck 12, when they rose and, mutually kissing, wished each other a happy new year, unquote. This is still the custom, but a contemporary clergyman said the Hagmena meant the devil was in the house. And of course the feckin' clergy would say that. Anything that predates Christianity or is not feckin' aligned with their scripture is always something evil. A fire and brimstone brigade always managed to feckin' spoil it for everyone. Sorry. A tea with a druid series, says Shay Payne. Okay. Now I'm seeing the relevance. Yes, indeed. Helena Breen is saying good evening, Anthony Murphy. Well, thank you, Helena Breen. And a very good evening to you. I hope you're in good form. Sheep stomach, says Rex, stuffed with meat and barley and a peppering of herbs. I've never tried it. Maybe someday I will. Philip Carr-Gum is the druid making tea and a little meditation into the virtual grove, and a little poetry. Ah, the penny is slowly dropping with me. Yes, there you go. Devilish qualities were attributed to stone idols of the hag, such as the famous stone of Scone, Scone, still used at each British monarch's coronation. This stone once represented the hag and her spinning wheel, i.e., Arianrod, goddess of the wheel of fate. That's very interesting. I will not mention the British Israelites. Oh, I just did, but I won't mention them again. A Danish ballad said the hag of Scone led the swarthy elves, but she was turned to stone by an incantation of the missionary Saint Olave, Olave. That derived from the Irish word Olave, as in a bard or a chief poet. I wonder. I don't know, which is why I'm asking. I do apologize. These are the things you don't see on live TV. Presenters blowing their noses because they've got someone else to do it for them. And here's the quote: "Thou hag of Scone, stand there and turn to granite stone." Unquote. Which is interesting because in the past 5 years, geologists studying the stone of Scone have have determined that it is made from sandstone. Excuse me. And that in fact that sandstone is local to Scone. So it's not granite, it's sandstone. Helvetian converts to Christianity were compelled to batter to pieces sacred stones in which their goddess dwelt, reciting her formula, quote, "Once I was the goddess, and now I am nothing at all," unquote. Wow. Doesn't all this sound very familiar and unfortunate? In the 16th century, hag was synonymous with fairy. Old High German called a wise woman Hagagusa. Now, sorry, I'm just taking a note here. Hagazussa. That is a moon priestess. Though hagiology still means the study of holy matters and saints, the root word hag declined in its meanings. Shakespeare's verb hagged, Hagged, meant to be bewitched. His noun haggard meant a hawk, a harpy, or an intractable woman. The hag as death goddess, her face veiled to imply that no man can know the manner of his death, was sometimes reinterpreted as a nun. Christianized legends were invented for these veiled figures. And that's from Graves' White Goddess, page 409, apparently, according to the footnotes. Thank you, David McDermott. And the other, so that's the hag. The other one that I was going to read was Swan, because I was intrigued about whether, no, I haven't read this before now, so I was intrigued because there's significant swan mythology in Irish myth, and of course, there are sort of migratory swans at Newgrange that come from Iceland. The whooper swan. Excuse me, I'm really just yeah, it's like a bout of hay fever that I have. So I am going to take an antihistamine because I don't want to spend the whole broadcast sniffling with running eyes and sneezing all over the place. Kind of laughing, says Caitlin Moon, about how I just did a PhD on a hag figure And I guess it makes me a moon priestess, lol. Can you eat swan in Ireland? No, I don't believe so. And apparently there was a law passed in the time of the Milesians that no swan was to be harmed in Ireland. Just wondering if the word to haggle has any connection to ancient hags. Interesting. I don't know, is the quick answer. Lily Shamble says, don't worry about the sneezing. There's not a lot you could do about it. Desiree Riley has snuck into the room after a little late after a dentist appointment. Well, that's another good reason for being late for a live stream. There were two people this evening who said they were late because they were having tea with a druid. And I imagine them physically sitting with a Gandalf-like figure, sipping tea and maybe eating cheese. But in fact, apparently, it's tea with a druid. Is this thing online where uh, uh, sounds like a bit of a live stream actually? But hello, Desiree. Hope you're in good form. Shay is telling us I tried vegetarian haggis, basically bread stuffing. Yeah, it doesn't quite sound quite as adventurous, does it? Um, Brendan says I had it while in Scotland, when in Rome, etc. Not to my liking. Mavanwe says I've never been partial to intestines myself. I think sometimes when you're eating, especially meat or any food produce that comes from an animal, you really are best not to think about where it came from. Let us absolutely not discuss in any way, in any amount of detail, sausages. Slipping back in the back of the no brown zone, catching up on Mythical Monday and all the lovely Tua, says Teresa Collins. Hope you feel a bit better soon. Just a bit of hay fever, I'm sure. Google comes up with this on haggle, says Mavanwe, late 16th century, in a sense, hack mangle, from Old Norse, hogva, hew. Barbara wants to know what's the Irish term you used for bard, and Caitlin is answering that. The adjective used to describe the highest level of poet, the filly olive. Well, Ollamh, or in this case, it's slightly modified by the preceding word, filly olive, Ollaimh. Ollam in the manuscripts because the H just had a shevu on it, which later meant, well, which at the time meant it was lenited, but basically you put a H on and it sounds differently. Lily Shamble says, liver and kidney, yum yum. I'm sure it's lovely. Cajun boudin and Scottish haggis is very similar. Wow. It all probably goes back to more lean times when, when you had to kill an animal to feed yourself and your family, you tried as much as possible to use as much as possible. Anybody ever make stock out of the bits and pieces left over of a chicken or a lamb or whatever? It's the sort of thing that we don't tend not to do these days. But literally every usable bit of an animal was used in the old days. Yeah, it's interesting. Tom King wants to know if someone mentioned sausages, second breakfast. The mound of the sausages, of course, is a popular dish at Tom's Forge. Duolingo just supposedly taught me that word, says Barbara. Which word? Olive. Wow. The swan, an ancient universal shamanic practice of wearing swan feather cloaks, created numerous myths of deities able to transform themselves into swans. And straight away, we're on theme here because Angus transformed himself into a swan in order to have the love of his we could call her otherworldly or dream maiden Care, Caer. A true wizard would never admit to being late, just invisible in the back of the room. Yes, indeed. What about a show on mythical food? The challenge with that, Rex, is how do we get through an hour and a half talking about food without actually eating? We'll just make everybody hungry. Great idea, though. Swans are sacred to a nature spirit called Nagas, a kind of mermaid or merman at the top of the hierarchy of such spirits in India and Tibet. Wow. Thank you, John. Lily, not fussed about actual meat, but yep, still boil the bones. The heavenly nymphs, or apsaras, of Hindu mythology were swan maidens. As a phallic god sporting with these sexual angels of the Vedic heaven, Krishna became a swan knight, Knight. Multiplied forms of his goddess were sometimes swanhuris, Houris, sometimes milkmaids, the gopis, Gopis. Kalmuk tales of the Siddhi Kur, translated from Sanskrit, made Krishna a swan knight who courted the triple goddess in the guise of three milkmaids, daughters of the old woman Kali. Wow, lots of connections here tonight. I didn't intend for the hag. Well, I knew, of course, Cailleach and hag were likely to be connected, but I didn't realize there'd be a connection with swan as well. The same Indo-European lore surfaced in Scandinavian myth as the swan incarnations of the Valkyries, who wore magic swan feather cloaks to transform themselves. Kali, or Kauri, Kauri, became the Valkyrie Kara, Kara, who flew in her swan feathers above battlefields and sang magic charms to deprive the enemy of strength. Well, that's funny because Angus and Care sang when they encircled Sheed and Broga to put the inhabitants to sleep. Sorry, I'm taking a margin note. Legends insisted that if a man could steal a Valkyrie's costume of swan feathers, she would be forced to grant his every wish. Wow. Needless to say, I doubt there was ever a single man in history who ever succeeded in that exploit. Back in the day, says Alan, the only part of a pig that didn't get used was its oink. Ooh, near me they have found Stone Age skeletons. A mother with its baby laid on a swan wing. Wow. Fantastic. Movanwe, I remember pigs' heads when I lived in Sardinia, and intestines, or intestines if you prefer, as a delicacy on Christmas Eve. Wow. Yeah, we have black pudding and white pudding, which aren't always included in breakfast. And I know Michael Fortune of folklore.ie would be the man to ask about more recent food traditions around festive occasions. But you'll see the full Irish. But what is the origin of the full Irish? It seems to be just a copy of the full English with just a couple of minor variations. But black pudding and white pudding are, or at least when I was younger, I think black pudding and white pudding were special additions to, sausage rashers or bacon, if you prefer, and eggs in a big breakfast, especially a celebratory one. And once upon a time, at the Boyne Valley Revision Conference, which was Martin Brennan's only return to Ireland between around 1985 and the time of his death last year. That was in 2009. After the conference, which was, of course, headlined by the good man himself, Martin Brennan, we later retired to the dining area where we enjoyed pig on a spit, which was an interesting sight. Helena tells us that Kuri is a Maori name of a mythological dog. Brilliant. And there is a section on dogs in this, so perhaps that's something I can read on one of the coming live streams. Okay, I think I'm all caught up. The swan knight Krishna reappeared in classic Greek myth as Zeus in swan feathers, disguising himself as a swan to seduce the goddess Leda, who gave birth to the world egg, which suggests that she too was a totemic swan. Sometimes she was confused with the goddess Nemesis, to whom Zeus's very life was subject. Leda, Leda, or Leda, or Lady, in quotes, Lady, being her only title. Northern mythology also identified her with the Valkyrie Brunhilde. Now, I'm not sure if I have the pronunciation right. I will type that in as a comment. B or U. Oh, I'm sorry. Brunhilde. Brunnhilde. Whose seven children or seven dwarves were transformed into the seven swans of the fairy tales. Ah, yes. Zeus's swan form can be traced also to the Vedic image of Brahma in his special Vahana, vehicle, animal incarnation, i.e., a swan. Swan maidens and swan knights associated with the old religion. She gives that a capital O and a capital R, by the way. Caitlin Moon says, I'm listening on my balcony and two swans just swam by. Wow. I'm always fascinating when that happens. I did a live stream during the pandemic, and not one of the live Irish Myths episodes. I did a live stream from Drogheda where I was walking out in my within my 2 kilometer limit, and I was speaking about myth and legend and stuff like that. And two swans flew through the live stream, which was brilliant. Swan maidens, sorry, I'll read that again. Swan maidens and swan knights associated with the old religion were common in European folklore throughout the Christian era. A certain order of knights connected with the legendary Temple of the Grail and the defense of women claimed descent from a divine swan hero. Wow. The families of Gelders and Cleves bore a swan on their arms to honour their ancestor, quote, the Knight of the Swan, servant of women, unquote, in whose memory Duke Adolf held a tournament in 1453. Monica Regley tells us Brun means fountain or source, so source of life. Oh, okay, I'm going to take a note to that effect. Brunhilde. So BRUNNHILDE equals so is Hilde life? Is that what Hilde means? Wow. Thank you for that. Monica, I didn't even know you were here. Hello. Good evening to you. Porrico Comiskey is in the house also. Hopefully the Swans will be out in force on the Castletown River at Toberona Holywell here in Dundalk on Wednesday for the Bridget's Way pilgrims. Yes, indeed. And I'll be meeting them also in the coming week. Brilliant stuff. Hopefully, Porrick. Yeah. No, Hilda is the name Hilda. Okay, yeah. Okay. Isn't it odd Helene of Troy was apparently the daughter of Leda and Zeus. Helen of Troy. Isn't it odd that a lot of the tales take place at Samhain? When Angus goes to care at Loch Bail Drachen, when Angus takes control of Newgrange, which is also at that time. Is there anything significant? Yeah. Some of the scholars sort of are a bit dismissive about that. They suggest, oh yeah, the medieval scribes made everything happen at important pagan festivals. But I actually do think there's something significant about that. I've said it and I've written about it in relation to the Éanach of Brunabonia, which I've been doing talks about and I've written about in a couple of my books. Yeah, I do. I think that the Éanach of Brunabonia was unusual in that most of the recorded major Éanach sites and gatherings and festivities were held at Lunasa, as we know from Moira McNeill's wonderful work, The Festival of Lunasa. The once every 3 year, is that triannual? Feis Chowro was a Samhain event, which is interesting. So Tara and Brunabonia appear to have, from the hints given in mythology, had significant gatherings at Samhain. But of course, the usual difficulty is, and the caveat that comes with that sort of study is, you're looking at mythology that was written down in the 12th to 15th or 16th centuries AD, possibly referring to events in prehistory. Don't you have an alignment with Cygnus over one of the monuments? Yes, indeed. The Cygnus Enigma, as I have called it. Let us give you a quick link to that. It's on the website, but a more detailed version of it, of course, is in my book, Island of the Setting Sun, in Search of Ireland's Ancient Astronomers. Northern Cross, yes, exactly. Monica Regley is asking, is Lou on this year as well, Andrada? The Lou Festival of Light is indeed on again this year at Samhain, at Halloween time. Yes, it is. Monica, who's asking. The knight was sometimes called Lohengrin, or a saviour of women, like the British hero Lancelot Galahad. After the classic pattern, Lohengrin floated in a mystic vessel on the sea in his infancy and was found and raised by a great queen in a foreign land. After his death, he was reborn or reincarnated as his own son. And what is the rank, is the footnote on that. When Lohengrin became one of the Knights Templar of the Grail, he was sent from the Grail castle at Montsalvat to champion the cause of Duchess Else of Brabant, who had been unjustly imprisoned for exercising the ancient right of noblewomen to choose a lover from among men of inferior rank. Having overcome Elsa's enemies, Lohengrin married her. According to one version of the story, probably drawn from the myth of Psyche and Eros, Elsa was forbidden to ask her husband's real name, but couldn't help insisting on it. So, sorrowfully revealing his name, Lohengrin was obliged to leave Elsa and return to the Mount of Paradise. Other versions of the story said he took her with him to Montsalvat, where they lived happily ever after. Other stories said Lohengrin appeared in his swan feather costume to defend Clarissa, Duchess of Bouillon, against the Count of Francfort, who tried to steal her duchy. Or he took up the cause of Beatrice of Cleves, whose property rights were threatened by hostile barons. Though he sallied forth to the rescue of several ladies in distress, the Swan Knight's real home was always, quote, the mountain where Venus lives in the Grail, unquote. Now, that is all I had intended to read, but it being only 9 o'clock, I suppose I could find another. Let me have a squiz. Any requests? Anybody familiar with this book? Or wow, tarot is a very, very lengthy section, as in tarot cards. No, we're not reading that one. Not tonight, anyway. No. Anything about the moon? Well, we did that, you see. We did, didn't we? Um, Not last week because there was no live stream last week. The previous week we did an episode called May and the Menstrual Calendar. And then the first week, I'm just going to have to go back. Wow, first 3 weeks ago, we did an episode that was an hour and 50 minutes. Yeah, we did the moon. So episode 278, Caitlin. What's the book called? It's called Barbara G. Walker's The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. That's exactly what it's called. First published in 1983. John Inman is telling us Brunhilde is a heroic figure in Wagner's The Ring Cycle. 1 brackets 3 is named for her. She was the daughter of Wotan. Ida was the other of Helen of Troy, and her brothers Castor and Pollux, the twins, of course, Gemini, yes. What about the Sheela-na-gig? Yeah, let's have a look. Very good. Oh, there's a section called sex. Big long one, too. He said, without any hint of a pun intended. There's an 8-page long section on sex. Sheila-na-gig, yes, Anthony, concentrate. Yes, Sheila-na-gig is there. Wow, it's short, but let's read it. You could call that a section. Yes, a section. Yes, please, says Mavanwe. I take it you're talking about Sheila and not the other one. Carved representation of a naked woman squatting with her knees apart, displaying her vulva, shown as a vesica piscis, or double-pointed oval. Vesica, should I say. And piscis is not related to fish, that it the overlap of two circles creates this vesica piscis. Am I right in saying that? And we have that at Tara, by the way, where the wood hedge that's invisible overlaps Rot Marie, and within the vesica piscis is Duan O'Neill, the oldest structure on the entire hill. Sometimes the figure presented the vesica with both hands, or drew it open with one. Sheela-na-gig figures appeared all over Irish churches built before the 16th century. F. Huxley, of course. There's been a lot more written about Irish Sheilas by Jack Roberts and what is the lady's name? Yeah, just in case you're interested in sort of reading more, there are more recent works. Let me come back to that, because this, after all, the book I'm reading from was published in the 1980s. Many were still in place during the 19th century, but Victorian prudery defaced or destroyed large numbers of them. Yes, indeed. One of those that was defaced here locally was the one that was said to be on the wall, the southern wall of the old church at Douth. But what appears to have happened is that when his friends were erecting the bust or marble memorial to the poet and patriot John Boyle O'Reilly, who wished to be buried there but was buried in Boston, it seems that they maybe carved it off or desecrated it, as it were, to get the I don't know what you call the main part of the memorial stone to fit. But I'm just wondering now whether it had already been destroyed at that point. I'm sure it hadn't. I'm sure I've read about this, and probably in Jack Roberts' work. Some have been found buried near the churches they once embellished. Sheela-na-gig figures closely resembled the Ionic statues of Kali, which still appear at the doorways of Hindu temples, where visitors lick a finger and touch the yoni for luck. Some of the older figures have deep holes worn in their yonis from much touching. It seems a bit bizarre, doesn't it? Yes. I presume the look in question is perhaps related to luck infertility. Would I be right? Is that part of the reason for the touching? Lorraine Koshenka Stock. It's one. No, that's not the name. The lady I was thinking about, Caitlin. I think there's an English lady. Good day from Iowa, says Mark Gordon. Good afternoon to you, Mark. Hope you're in good form. Uh, the Pisces symbol? No, not the Pisces symbol. The other. So if you get two circles and just overlap them slightly and take away the rest of the circles, the shape that they're left with it is like a vulva shape. You know, the vesica piscis. I think. Don't take my word for that, by the way. Monica is back about Brunhild with only one N means Brunhild, breast armor. Hild means battle or fight. So armed for the battle. Wow. But in this case, it was two N's. So that changes its meaning then. Yeah. Okay. Heather Marie, long comment about Siddha. From AtlanticReligion.com. Not sure. I haven't heard of that website, so I'm not sure if it's a bona fides. The ancient Sanskrit word siddha refers to an enlightened individual who has attained a higher spiritual state of being, having divested of many worldly things which encumber the soul. That sounds like a sort of ascetic versions of Christianity too, doesn't it? Siddha is expressed in its most ethereal and radical form within the religious system of Jainism, perhaps the oldest world religion still extant, which ascribes these Siddha a holy spiritual form without a physical body, based on their ability to overcome the worldly things. Scholars of Irish, Scots, and Manx Gaelic mythology will recognize this as a state of being usually ascribed to the She people, otherwise often called fairies, or in the medieval Irish literary tradition, the Tuatha Dé Danann. Interesting stuff. Thank you for that, Heather Marie. One of the projects I'm working on, says Mavanway, has one of the only 4 Sheela-na-gigs in Wales. Barbara Freitag has written about it, describing it as representing birthing. Yeah, Barbara Freitag is another, but this lady would be sort of, I think, even younger than me. Sheela-na-gig author. This lady gave a talk at Megalithomania in the past 15 or 20 years. I didn't think it was Barbara Freitag. And I'm not sure if this is the same lady that... Oh, Megan Rice. Yeah, Megan Rice. I'm not sure if that's the same lady that co-authored the book with Jack. Let me just check. Sheela-na-gigs. Trying to find it now is the next question. Well, there's one book by Jack Roberts, which is Island of the Sheela-na-gigs. Let me just quickly check the bibliography. I hate that when you know information and it's in there somewhere and you just can't bring it to the fore quickly enough. No, I just can't remember the lady. Give the lady's name. Yeah, Megan Rice's lecture or her presentation about Sheela-na-gig is on YouTube. Mavanway has just posted the link. I have that book, says Selkie Woman. Island of the Sheela-na-gigs. Yes, indeed. There's another, Joanne McMahon. I think that's her, Monica. I think it's Joanne McMahon. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. Okay, I will continue because time is pushing on. The protruding rib cage on many examples of the Sheela-na-gig imitates the figures of Kali as the death goddess, Cailleach, evidently remembered in Ireland as the Cailleach, or old woman, who was also the creatress and gave birth to all races of men. Okay. Celts generally protected doorways with some female genital fetish, which is why they settled on the horseshoe, classic omega sign of the Cailleach. In India, it stood for the feminine cosmos within which Shiva ever performed his creative sexual dance, although he was assimilated to the Cailleach and given her title of destroyer. That's interesting because the symbol, if it's the horseshoe in that shape rather than the upside down version, that is similar to the symbol of the Egyptian sky goddess Nut, who looks like the sort of Milky Way in an inverted U. And we see that symbol in megalithic art, the inverted U, by the way. We see it nested in arcs, in pairs or triads. Um, hmm. Fascinating stuff. So I'm taking margin notes here. Yeah, so Monica's asking, is it really Kali, not Sheila, the fertility goddess? Well, I think it's Sheila in Ireland. But I think what Barbara Walker is saying, that because of the close resemblance of the Sheila figures with the Kali Yoni or Yonic statues, um, that and because of the protruding rib cage on the Sheela-na-gig, that it imitates the figure of Kali as the death goddess, evidently remembered in Ireland as the Cailleach or old woman. I think we are talking about two remote or distant versions of the same thing, I think is what she's getting at. Derivation of the term Sheela-na-gig is obscure. It meant something like vulva woman. Gig or giggy meant female genitals, and and may have been related to the Irish jig, J-I-G, from French gig, G-I-G-U-E, in pre-Christian times, an orgiastic dance. Wow. In ancient Eric, a gig seems to have been a holy yoni. The sacred harlots of the temple were known as Nu Gig, N-U-G-I-G. It's interesting because if you lenit that, the word gig, what you get is G-I-G-H, which would be pronounced gi. And all I can say is that gi was a, shall we say, still is, a vulgar term for the female genitalia, used in sort of slang or vernacular common parlance, as it were. It would be one of a number of words that Irish people would use to refer to the female sex organ, the gi. And it's a funny, but not funny, but it's an interesting aspect that when I was young, like a teenager and a young adult, and I heard that word, I often wondered about its origins, and I didn't know them. I think that may have been referred to in something like, was it P.W. Joyce, who we've been reading from the social history? Did he also write a book about English as it is spoken in Ireland? Because the version of English, we Irish people are intractable and intransigent. We were never going to speak the language of our occupiers, our conquestors, or what are they called? The imperial, our neighbourly settlers. We were never going to speak their language as they wanted us to speak it. We would only speak it on our own terms. So an entirely different Hiberno English, as it happens. Let me just check that. Yes, so GHEE is a form of very pure butter. Yes, which I have heard of. But this specifically would be sort of, you would, if you were to spell it phonetically, it would be GEE. Bonsoir says Lambda Delta. 2 letters of the Greek alphabet. Brilliant. Of the invaders, yes. But invaders, no. There was another word. Anyway, what was I going to look up? English. As we speak it in Ireland is indeed what it is called by P.W. Joyce. Now, this is obviously it's a reprint. It looks like a facsimile reprint. Wolfhound Press. When was this published? Reprinted 1981. Originally published 1978. Sorry, originally published 1910. I just wonder whether there's no index. So there'll be no easy way for me to find reference to that. I thought maybe it was something like this, or is it Slangwich? There's a book called Slangwich, which is about, but I thought it was specifically Irish. Maybe it's not. There's a few works relating to Hiberno English, English as it is spoken in Ireland, and it was in one of those that I read about the connection between the word "gi," meaning basically vagina, and Sheela-na-gig. And if Sheela-na-gig was lenited, the last element, so Sheila-na-gig being 3 different words, then it would be Sheela-na-gig. And I think Jack Roberts, among others, has suggested that connection, Sheila-na-gig, basically. Sheila of the Gee. 32 words for field, I'm not sure. Could have been. But I think the only reason I'm doubting that is because I know I read this a long time ago. 32 words for field is only a recent publication. I don't suppose it matters that much. But I would like to be able to tell you the source of it, of course. Because when we were younger, as I say, and that word was uttered, it was like, and I never knew where it had come from, and in fact may for a time have assumed that it was derived from an English slang word, but not apparently. Or there was Gaeilge that said something similar, but that's in the last 10 years. Yeah, no, I don't think it was that. Not in my case. Anyway, I don't think it's important. At this point, it is 9:20 in the evening. We've been live streaming for over an hour and 20 minutes. And believe it or not, the sun hasn't actually set here, although it is quite cloudy. I can see that there is still sunlight on parts of the clouds. Yeah, as I say, midsummer coming flying around now as we reach the top of the year and the sun, its maximum declination. Any questions or comments? Let's have a little bit of a chat before we head off. I'm conscious of the fact that I didn't do a live stream last year, so perhaps I have to catch up or allow a little bit more time on that basis. Helena tells us the horseshoe was used on Roman coins for Ursa Major and minor movement. Wow. Yeah. Now, Mavanwi asks a question, but I see the comments, and I see them 2 minutes after, or 3 minutes, or 5 minutes later. And the question is, isn't that because they're from the same root, Proto-Indo-European? What is that relating to, Mavanwi? I'm not immediately able to connect that to the discussion. Actually, one of the things that we could do is to look up in the folklore the word Irish English Dictionary, which would be the Deneen folklore. Let's look up for the word gig or gee and see if we can find out a little bit more information. Perhaps it was in one of the folklore that I first read about it. Perhaps not, though. So let's not get too carried away. Yeah, you see, there's no word gig, because it would have to be giog or giag or Okay, let's go to the other source that is very reliable, which is the Dictionary of the Irish Language, of which there is an electronic version. Let us search for the word gig, G-I-G, as a head word only, no results. Okay, not as a head word only. Yeah, that's interesting. It's not coming up with results. So, gig, as in Sheela-na-gig, may be a phonetic or an anglicized rendering of an Irish word. That's a rabbit hole that we will leave for now, because that is the sort of thing that can lead you on a labyrinthine mission, trying to find the origin of a word and its sort of medieval rendering and spelling and meaning, etc., etc. It's related. No, okay, sorry. Now let's go back because people are commenting. It was Helena Breen's comment about the similarity of Gaelic and Sanskrit. I was wondering if this was because they're both derived. Yeah. Apparently, and this is another area that I must explore at some point. I think it's been mentioned in some of the live streams. Can't say which ones, but it has been suggested that Ireland and India, being on the fringes of the Indo-European sort of language family geographically, and not perhaps being subject to the same vicious overhaul from imperialism, have managed to retain aspects of the similar origins of some of their language. I think that's the notion, and so that's why there are similarities apparently. But I'd have to do more reading on that. Archaeomyth. About the origin of the Dagda's name. The name Ech is translated as a horse. Is there a symbol of a horse connected to him? I haven't seen in any of the myths. No, I'm not sure. And the interesting thing about all of that is that one of my contentions is that the Tuatha Dé Danann mythology about Brú na Bóinne relates to the Neolithic, but there are difficulties with that, of course. Nuadu of the Silver Arm, for instance, referring to metal when these were apparently gods of the Stone Age. Yeah. You see, the name is Yochi, and that's a name that seems to have been given to a lot of kings, and I think the connection there is the ech part relating to a horse. I'd have to dig deeper on that one too. Caitlin Moon says it's related to Sanskrit sounding like Shan Skriav. but I'm going to add my 2 cents of Old Irish and say that we have to be extremely cautious about similarities like that without doing a full etymological dig into it. There's more coincidences than you think. Yeah, and we have the likes of, for instance, Charles Valency, his book on grammar and the Celtic language, making all sorts of leaps of the imagination, connecting Irish words with Chaldean in particular, when they were just coincidental similarities. So yeah, absolutely, that is a whole area that I don't go too deeply into because I'm not an expert on it at all, and because I'm conscious of those things. Helena Breen says origin of gig akin to Old Norse gigia, fiddle. Wow. Not in my new Gaelic dictionary by McLennan, says Barbara. That's obviously the word gig. It's also the same shape as the gold lunula objects found around Ireland. JP is referring, of course, to the horseshoe. Yeah, very good. I wonder whether lunulae related to the goddess somehow. Yucky suggests mastering a horse and thereby master sovereignty. And of course, the horse, the white mare, was sacrificed according to Cambrensis, wasn't it? Geraldus Cambrensis. And of course, the white mare. And was that the New Year custom or was that the Samhain custom? You say, what's the difference of going around with the horse's head on a pole and saying you were the white mare, the Lárach Bán? So many connections. And ginger definition doesn't match. Arr! Says Barbara. A gig could be Norman, so really jig a dance. Yeah. Fascinating. A whole area that could be explored, but we are not going to do that tonight, folks, because yeah, time's up, as it were. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. It's been an interesting evening, always enjoyable with your good company. Don't know what next week's episode is going to be about, but that's all part of the surprise. If you're driving, a safe journey. And of course, to those of you who are in the States, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday, which at this point is only half over. And for those of you in Europe, enjoy the rest of your night. For those of you in Oceania, enjoy your day as it opens up towards you. Thanks, Anne McCallum, for the nice comment. Such a pleasure, of course, to have you all along for the journey. Shay Payne says, thanks, Anthony. Enjoy learning and listening. Well, you're very welcome, Shay. It's good to see you. Please do come back again. Linda Bird, and you too. Hope you have a fabulous time, whatever part of Ireland you're in currently. Leslie O'Neill, there's a very famous surname. Leslie, who is descended from Niall of the Nine Hostages. Leslie, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Be safe, happy and healthy. Yes, indeed, a very good way to sign off for the evening. Lambda Delta says, thank you. You're very welcome. David is saying, thanks, always fascinating. You're very welcome, David. Indeed. Thanks and take care, says Lily. Thank you, very interesting, says Archeomyth. Brilliant. And Edina as well, and Monica. Brilliant. Okay, so Barbara is saying gig, not ginger, because of autocorrect. Yeah, that is one I think I will have to do more research on. In the meantime, and I mean the linguistic origins of it, not the anatomical origins. In the meantime, Alan Hoskin says he really enjoyed it, as did John Main. Very interesting chat. Gora Mahagut, and you too, John. Donal Alistair McLaughlin Gall says, great episode, lad. Thank you indeed, Donal. I take it you're from across the water. We were talking about haggis earlier on, and I was saying I never tried it. So maybe that day will come. You never know. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter on the Mythical Ireland website for announcements and news. You won't be spammed. 1 a week is the maximum that we send out. And don't forget, please do follow the ticker across the bottom of the screen, the ticker tape, to become a patron of Mythical Ireland. Thank you very much. Have a fabulous week, and I hope that it's a great one for you, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. All that remains for me to say at this point in time, thank you, Deborah Gilbert, is Ichawa Kolusov, Slán Gafol, and Tog Gabugay.